Now I am going
Okay.
live, and we can do this
Okay,
again.
so everything we just said is completely null.
Yes, we should say it again. Hello,
So I can say
everyone.
whatever I want right now, and no one
No, we
will
are
be
live.
able.
We have been live for 3 seconds.
No, I've now lost my opportunity to say things not on a hot mic.
Okay.
Now everything I say is on the clock.
We can go again. All right. Hello, everyone. We are TM. We would like to review some of our Fight Club games from the finals, especially. Here with me is Dee. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Dee. I played in the final 2 games of Fight Club. They were single-handedly the longest 2 games of Netrunner I've ever played, clocking in at 3 hours. And I'm really excited to discuss some of the lines that myself and my opponent, Tempest Council as the system, came up with in that monster of a game. It was amazing.
All right. Where do we want to start from? Since we're probably doing 2 of your games and 1 of my games, we should start from 1 of yours, I guess. Which one would
Yep.
you prefer to do first?
Let's start with the shorter one.
Okay, the shorter one. So that
The Hoshiko Shiro versus
yes.
Reality Plus.
Yep. We should be on. Can you see this?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
So maybe can I briefly chat about the deck?
Yeah, 1 sec. Let me figure out things. So we have deck lists here.
Perfect.
And my browser is so slow today. I guess I'm streaming. Oh my god. Okay. So we have R plus.
R plus versus Hoshiko. So the central idea of corp strategy, I think, for all of us was we were assuming that Unbanned was almost definitely bringing either 2 Anarchs or 2 Shapers. And we believed that the strongest Shapers were ones that were leaning on Lobo, and the strongest Anarch was still Mulch. So I was looking back on the pre-RWR meta, and in my opinion, the strongest deck that was able to beat Mulch was a deck, I believe, published by Toby, TF34, which uses La Costa Grid in order to create constant tempo in a remote while using public trail and self-growth program to really slow the runner down. So the big benefit that we have in our WR is that we had Hollow Man, which is able to take the role of La Costa Grid and then give 6 influence to spend on more interesting ice. So the big fun one is Hammer. Hammer, I think, is just an exceedingly good ice into this meta, where decks are running Audrey, where decks are running Angolo, where decks are running Lobo, where decks are running Boomerang, as a way to really radically slow the runner down. The issue with Hammer is that it costs 6, which makes it like not quite good enough to be using in like the largest Glacier decks. But in R plus, it's 6, but if the tag subroutine fires, it then becomes 4. So it actually becomes a very affordable, reasonably costed ice. And I wanted to sort of use Hammer. I then put in 1 Bran in order to really make the ice a bit chunkier. With those, we were able to put in a single Trust Stop. And then Seamless is just to make sure the Hollow Man, even if it gets trashed, you're still able to score off-world offices relatively quick. One decision that I believe you suggested, Tuno, was to replace an Oracle Think Tank with a Fly on the Wall.
I think the 1 fly on the wall can win you a game.
Yeah,
So,
in a way, the one Oracle never really can.
Mhm.
And given the fact that the other R plus ended up going to 3 fly on the walls, I think with Hollow, this turned out to be like a really sensible move. It doesn't end up making a difference in this game. But all of this is to say that was sort of the idea behind the R plus. Then looking into the matchup, there were a few sort of considerations that I noticed. One is that this Hoshiko deck just completely invalidates Ice with Bankar. And 3 copies means you can't really base a strategy on them not getting Bankar up as soon as possible.
But you can trash them.
Of course, you can trash the Bankars once you get yourself growths up and once you get tags going. But if they don't end up floating tags, it becomes a huge issue. The other thing is Mimic and K2CP means that Hammer is online for a very long time. So I actually am willing to put Hammer on innermost positions in a way I usually am not in this matchup. But for the most part, this is a very good stuff Hoshiko. It's an incredibly tuned deck. In testing, I considered like the odds of Reality Plus winning to be probably 30 to 40%. So I just needed to make sure I found my outs and played as aggressively and as focused into a win condition as possible. The final thing I want to say about this specific matchup, which you're going to see played a major role in this game, is the matchup actually has very weak multi-access. It has the twinning and three companions, but it because I'm R plus, the twinning becomes a bit of a liability.
It's really
because
not reliable.
it means you have to be paying 8s into every public trail or you lose every bit of multi-access. And you have 2 copies of Maw, but Maw then also becomes a reliability. The weakness of this multi-access allows me to make some lines, but I don't think I would make in any other matchup, and we'll see that as we go through the replay.
That makes sense. Aksu saying not going for the trust up Hydra meme. Why no Hydra?
Because Hydra is too expensive to play. And I actually, if I were to do this again, wouldn't do Trust Stop because this deck is running 13 Ice. And the line you have to do with Trust Stop is throw one of your Ice into Archives. And if you start doing that, suddenly you've now put yourself in a really rough situation. Where now you've gone from a 13 ice deck to effectively a 12 ice deck with the requirement of getting a public trail hits. That was the sort of rationale, but the long and short of it is I like Trust Stop as sort of a value operation. Like it can give you Hollow Man back if need be. It gives you ice if, for instance, an ice gets mod or stargated. Or you choose to trash it because it's been botchlist. But on the whole, I wanted Trust Stop was good, but I didn't want to lean into it 100%.
Okay. I think we can go into the game. We have a couple of options as far as the replay goes because we have corp view and spectator view, which are I believe are just tiny bit different. I think maybe it doesn't matter here. It's more important for running games. Okay. So
and for folks who don't know, I am academic.
Oh yes.
QTM or the standard band team brought 4 decks, all of which contained at least 1 copy of Hollow Man, and we all changed our names to one of the 4 subtypes on Hollow Man. So I'm academic because I'm a grad student.
Yeah. So we have this hand. You may keep or mulligan it. What do you do and why?
I think this is a snap mulligan for a couple of reasons. One is it's just every card in it is a good card that doesn't have the pieces it needs to work out. Bologna is a great early threat, but you don't have the ice to protect it. Mavirus is a good card, but you want it later in the game when a fermenter is ticking. Market Forces is nice, but you don't have any tags to make it stick. And Hedge Fund's always good, but the other 4 cards aren't letting you do anything with it. Hammer is also probably the worst ice to be starting with because it is really sad to res turn 1. All of this makes it like if I thought this was a very good matchup, like if I was against a Crim, maybe I keep this, just put the hammer on HQ, hedge fund, feel happy, and let the heart of the cards sort of read me to it. But against such a good player and such a good deck, I need something better.
Do you? You're saying hammer is very bad early. I think there's a counterpoint. I guess a
Mhm.
small counterpoint there, which is you said you really like to have it innermost behind something else.
Yeah.
So it is good to have it sort of early for that reason, right? Because if you draw it later, it's going to be a lot more difficult to put something in front of it.
I agree. And it's great to be able to put in front of it. And it's a great first one to have on a central server. But the ice you want to be seeing in your starting hand is remote ice in this deck. Because you want to be able to threaten Rashida ASAP. Hammer would be great if there was a second ice. Then I have a really good central ice and a really good remote ice. But in this case, I just didn't have that.
Do you? I mean, do you think we're interested in critiquing our opponent's play as much as we're doing
I'm going to
yours?
make the assumption that my opponent is
It's good.
making what I'm going to make the assumption that my opponent is making the decisions that they consider the most rational. I know, having talked to counsel after the fact, that they have identified a few misplays, but I'm not going to be dwelling on that.
Yeah, I think also in the interest of time, we're mostly going to be focused on your place because I think it's very worth it to go very much in depth. Thanks. Good luck, have fun. Okay, we will go into this hand and then we draw a magnet.
I'm very happy I drew that magnet.
This is a very interesting hand, but I think
my
what you
God.
do with it on turn 1 is a lot more interesting.
Yep, so let's actually go show what I do.
Is that still what you will do?
Is that the exact... The reality is, I think there are several good lines here. In this specific circumstance, knowing what my opponent is able to threaten, this was the line I think was right.
Okay,
so let's show the line because it's a little weird. Usually for really new players, this is not something you want to be doing.
This is extremely weird. So Upward Office Magnet Virtual Servant Agent on top of it. So we go down to 4 credits.
We go down to 4 credits, which is a really bad place, especially because you are not threatening an early econ asset. This is not a Rashida. This is an off-world.
This really looks like a Rashida.
But if my opponent runs, I have to res both ice, which puts me down to 1 credit.
Yes. Also,
here was the... And this is a play that I started doing from watching Toby against a very similar deck in the previous meta. He often did install, install, install. And the big reason I think this play is what needed to be done here is positioning. VSA is either a central ice or it needs to be outermost because it is very, very weak once Buzzsaw is out. And it needs to be protecting, and you can always just go through it. So if I was protecting off-world with just magnets, my worry was a boomerang run hit the off-world.
Right. Boomerang is the biggest reason, I guess.
Now with 2 ice protecting it, I have 2 benefits. One is for the next 3 to 4 turns, I feel really safe against Bankar. They need to get a Buzzsaw or Boomerang or some tool in order to address the server. Bankar will not do it alone. In fact, Bankar feels really good against a VSA. The second reason I want to be doing this is Boomerang, and the third reason is because of the way people play Hoshiko Shiro. Worst case scenario in my mind is my opponent makes a run on server one, first click. Let's say my opponent makes a run on server one. I res VSA. My opponent is now down to 4 credits and now has a tag. I then res Magnus, I'm at 1 credit. If my opponent then runs HQ and removes the tag, they are going to be at 4 -2 +2, 4 credits, starting next turn at 3 credits. They have 1 click left to stabilize Econ. Maybe that puts them at 7, but it's a mulligan's hands, so it really could be anything. All of this is to say, my opponent basically needs to decide either to sacrifice the Hoshiko Shiro, flip this turn, which is a major tempo hit, or not go for server one.
That makes
Both
sense.
of these situations are fine with me. If my opponent doesn't go for server one, I can seamless. If my opponent does, they're taking a huge tempo loss, and I can take care of what needs to be done in the future.
Okay.
It's a weird line, but I think it ended up setting me up for mid game in a better way than if I had just put the VSA protecting R&D. The final thing
I
is,
like it more. The more you talk about it, the more I like it.
I also just my opponent does my multi-axis. I don't need to be protecting my centrals until very late game.
Don't you think
Like,
Sure Gamble Maw would be still powerful pressure right now?
it would, but the odds of that are reasonably low, and my opponent would then have to be protecting for the rest of the game against the public trail. So let's see.
Yeah, I guess against Oshiko, if you just install one ice, it's very very likely for them to just run the remote. And with 2 eyes, it's a little less reasonable for them to, because if there's 1 ice, either they hit something like a magnet, which is attacks for you and pushes them back, or they hit something like a VSA, which still gets them through. So this makes a lot of sense to me. I guess one of the biggest reasons, like the thing that is like the most about this play, is that Magnet plus VSA are both code gates, and they're both very easily broken by Balto. Like Magnet is really bad in this matchup specifically, because it is just the gear check that done taxes for 1. And having both code gates on the remote feels very fragile. When I saw you play as a spectator,
as soon as a buzzsaw is out, the magnet also goes.
Yeah, the way I saw this was this is making this is expanding resources to making it you more costly to actually make this into a workable remote later in the game.
Yeah.
So while I was watching this on stream, I was like, this is VSA ping. Is the way I saw it. Because that would have been so much better. Okay. So you're kind of expecting to score off of next turn, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. And we go as the runner, we draw. For HQ, see the Spin Doctor. We trash it. Play Bahar, play Pachiko.
Yeah. So this is a change in my plan. I could score the off-worlds, but Oppo pings are at such a premium. Like, this deck actually has not that much to trigger an Oppo. And in this board state, I want an Oppo. I still need to have the money to score an off-world, so this turn is just gonna be click Oppo research.
I don't see the credits is that important. Like, if you draw, you can
give me one moment, please.
Yeah, sure. Hello, chat. We have 5 viewers, which is the most we've had since the stream started. You're doing so well.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I guess like you only need 3 credits to score the off of, and I could see drawing up. So there's 2 things. One is you don't need much money to score the off of, and the other is after you have scored the off of, you sort of have more money than you need. Like you get a lot of money by doing it, and you are kind of okay after you've done that. And the main reason why you will want to have more than 4 credits is if you expect your opponent to run the Oppo. But I don't see it happening after you've landed an Oppo. I don't see why not go something like draw, Oppo for Oppo, get back 2 credits.
Question is, what am I drawing for? Like, I don't need an ice right now. Any agendas I draw can get stolen. A Rashida could get trashed. Like, I think this deck is super credit limited.
Mhm.
And to me, it was important to make sure that I was keeping my credit totals at a reasonable rate. Because if my opponent makes the run this turn, I can get in a really rough situation.
Mhm.
I think scoring the off-world or drawing are both reasonable, but like I have over the course of the last like maybe 3 to 4 months of Netrunner practice really come around to basic action click for credits. Like
Yeah.
you just don't know when you need those credits.
Yeah, to me the way I'm usually thinking about things tends to be you don't know when you need those cards. The main thing is I really want a follow up for the off of after I've scored it. Like, I want something else to put into the remote, because I want to make the runner make decisions.
Yeah, but I'll have 2 mandatory draws before I need to make that decision.
We are making noises in chat. Okay. Hajiko draws. Breakfast. Remove. Fermenter. So fermenter is a big deal.
Yep.
But also it's not something you are really going to do much about unless you draw a Mavirus, I guess. So,
yeah.
Which is going to
Fermenter is
accept the
something
runner.
that is great for my opponents, but I can't really be thinking about it.
Yeah. The runner has some money, which is expected.
Yep. But now I gotta get the off-world. I now have an ice that I can actually use that money to protect. This can mean I can really either if my opponent gets an early buzzsaw, shore up server 1, or just start to get my centrals stabilized. But this is a very clear scoring turn.
Yeah, I think this is very obvious. But okay. Oh, sorry. I skipped a few things. Okay. As runner, we play Stillskin, we run HQ, seeing the brand, put 2 credits, and discard Bahar.
The clicking for credits is really good info, by the way, because it indicates my opponent doesn't have more money to play around, so I can more aggressively be trying to hit their credit pool.
Yeah. There is a there's not quite the tempo to play the daily cast. Almost there. Yeah, I guess what we're seeing is there is no strike fund, no laundry, no raindrops. Is there laundry in the list?
3, I
There
believe.
is. Okay, yeah. That's important. No moshing the list. Okay. So we draw into Mamirus.
Amazing. That needs to go in server 1 this turn so that I can get the fermenter when it is most inconvenience for my opponent.
Which is going to be when? Like, does next turn make sense?
I think it depends on my opponent's credit total. And my credit total. If I, for instance, the next draw I have is an econ asset or operation, like a hedge fund. I'm at 14 in Mavirus. I'm 100% holding one more turn and then hitting it immediately at 4. If it's a Rashida, I do Mavirus with Rashida. If it's an agenda, which is what we're going to see is the case, I do a Mavirus with an agenda, and then I'm able to sort of threaten it out the next turn with tempo. There are a bunch of different possible lines, but if, for instance, it's just another ice, I probably am okay with Tempest getting to 5. Sorry, getting to 4 and popping at 5.
Yeah.
So it ends up being a Bologna, and then I know Bologna is way safer in server 1 than HQ, so it's going to be Mavirus and Bologna.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the fact that like the way that things went, I know this is too results oriented, but kind of feels like it validates my point about drawing earlier. Because I feel like if you had drawn one more card, you will have the Bologna. You will just install advance here.
True.
You can keep the Mavericks in hand because the only problem with that is maybe it gets run and you don't have to pay for it.
True, and then I get a Bran up. But all of this is because I had the money because I was able to score the off-world.
Mm-hmm.
If for some reason the off-world doesn't go through, for instance, if Tempest had a boomerang, we're saying a very different story. But I agree. The results, I think I took a very conservative line there, and I'm now losing a tempo because of it.
Because you were conservative. It makes a lot of sense. I think we're debating very fine details here about
Agreed.
plays that are all very reasonable. Okay. Rana is targeting server 1 with Banher. We play Poem. Like, there is a possibility to contest with a boomerang here, but he is not doing it because money is important. We just play Paladin, play casts. So money is frequent and
yeah, I believe my opponent doesn't know that doesn't know either card in HQ. So doing the contest line is incredibly dangerous because they wouldn't have the ability to, if they do a contesting line, they wouldn't be able to clear the tag. So if I have SGP, it's just like they lose their fermenter and they didn't have a chance to pop it.
Yeah, actually he does know about Bran. He saw the Bran.
Oh, he saw Bran on. Oh, yeah. You're right.
So you would have to, if you're talking about like SGP into trail SGP, you would have to top deck one of the pieces.
Yeah.
So you can't be considered to be acting on the basis of the fact that you know about those cards. Okay.
True, but VSA means that they still get a tag. But yes.
Yeah. Okay, we draw a public trail actually. Like we do draw it. I just talked
Heart
about
of the cards.
Yeah, it would be Heart of the Cards if he had ran. What do we do here?
You need to be threatening the Bologna. I want to be keeping the Mavirus around, and I think I have enough good things in hand that I'd rather take the conservative line and click for credits again. So I believe what I do is advance, click for credit, and then res the Mavirus.
And pop it
to basically
now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that sounds so reasonable because like it's very difficult to steal the Bologna if Mavirus is popped. And I think getting a credit here makes a lot of sense because if like a couple turns from now you need to draw a public trail is a draw card.
Yep.
And public trail to draw makes a lot more sense if you have market forces because you don't need to get credits from the trail much. So advance credit I think is a very good line. We give the Mavericks. And runner has very few.
Thing is 6 is the number I need, where if I res both my ice, I still can score the Bologna.
Assuming no Batso, but there is no Batso from this position. Like it's not possible to Batso.
Yeah, but if there's Buzzsaw, I'm not scoring my Bologna, and I'm also not resing my ice.
Okay, so Tempest has a boomerang here. Probably realizes that there's no real way to use it. and decides to install more and run HQ instead, which is very interesting.
Very aggressive, but ends up being good because I lose my market forces.
Mm-hmm. Very aggressive. But I guess if you are Tempest here, you have a hand that's kind of full of bricks. You have to make quite aggressive plays to get places.
So I now can't do the public trail market forces combo, so I'm just going to be scoring a Bologna this turn, which
Okay.
is fine. I'm now on
Mm.
match points with
Isn't it
tomorrow's.
isn't it possible to ice a central to protect from Maw here and delay the scoring? Because I don't think Bologna is really at risk of being stolen here at all.
I don't think Bologna is at risk of being stolen, but I also think a Maw trigger this turning isn't that bad. Public Trail is the worst hits. Hammer and Bran are occupying pretty similar niches right now,
Mhm.
in that both of them are almost definitely going to be going on to R&D. I'm not going to be able to protect against Maw, so I'm okay with them with him hitting HQ.
Mhm.
Um, and as such, like a maw is fine. Moreover, like if my opponent uh does get a maw trigger, Hoshiko then stays digital, which is actually
Yeah.
a really big cost this turn.
Mhm.
Uh because my opponent just has not stabilized economically since the maw trigger, also puts them at risk of a public trail. So from my perspective, I'd rather have Bologna scored and know that next turn, if I install anything in server one, my opponent has to respect that next turn it could be a tomorrow's headline and I just win the game.
Yep. All that makes sense. I am wondering about lines where you partially advance to Bologna, but I guess this makes the most sense. Also because you get your
Yeah,
money back.
partial advance is so greedy and I love it, but
I in
yeah,
this kind of deck I tend to partially advance a lot.
yeah,
Um, we ran in D. We mowed the brand, which we knew was a possibility.
yeah. I looked at this uh before this stream to see my play, but I hadn't noticed how awful Tempest's draw is here.
I think it really looked bad from from a spectator's viewpoint. Like he very obviously didn't have the thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at it from the replay and I'm like, oh wow, it was like double Barhar, double Paladin. Turbine in
It was
hand.
worse than I thought it was. I thought it was bad. I didn't think it was this bad.
Uh, it was bad. I think fermenters would really help it if there was the Mavericks.
Yep.
The Mavericks really killed the hand completely.
Yeah.
And I think this run on R&D is sadly also costing you a lot of money and putting you into trouble. Starting Poemu. Okay, sorry, we got hedge fund.
Yep. Uh, this is actually the first click. I don't remember what I do, so I'm now trying to. I'm now actually trying to think of it as if I was playing the game,
Yeah,
which is
that's
nice.
great when you can do that.
Um, I think I am now reaching a point where I want to start protecting servers. As discussed earlier, Hammer is actually fine on the inside here because of Bankar.
Mhm.
um, it becomes like a really meaningful threat. So I think I need to be getting the hedge fund this turn because hedge fund is mod and I feel really bad.
Yeah.
So I think, but I also just literally do not have anything to threaten. So I think I need to draw at least once.
Mhm.
Uh,
How much are you thinking about trashing this Bahar? Because we have already seen one Bahar being discarded, as someone pointed out in the chat. So
yeah,
there's very small chance of another Bahar being in hand, and it looks like money is kind of weird for this kind of for trashing Bahar right now. But I am thinking about it. Like, what if you played heads, trail, draw two, trash Bahar? You will be at 6.
hedge. I could see it, But like again, money is so tight in this R plus deck. Like to me, I think I need to accept the fact that I'm losing a lot of these fights and hope that I can protect against Bankar. Like I'm sort of like accepting the fact that my opponent could maw every turn, but if he maws every turn, I'm losing a card. But he is also losing a credit every turn, which is really pivotal. My opponent puts himself at risk of a bad public trail every turn. But I think there's no world in which I'm not drawing, and if I remember correctly, what I draw ends up really changing this
You
situation.
do draw.
Yeah.
Draw a ping. What does that mean?
So what that means is my HQ is safe. I'm not threatening too much. So hedge fund is a priority, so I can't public trail Bankar. So I need to hedge fund and I install an R&D, and I think I install the hammer, but I don't remember.
Install the hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, because hammer is just great here because Tempest needs a 2-card combo to do anything about the hammer. Or Bankar, which 3 cards is a lot of tempo. Having it innermost means that if a maw happens this turn and I lose the public trail, or if I lose the ping, I have public trail, I lose the public trail, then I can put ping protecting the hammer next turn.
Yeah. This makes sense. We have a draw. We have this skin. And that's a lot of cards. We have a second turbine. This draw is just terrible. We play raindrops on HQ, which is interesting to me. These raindrops, it's like raindrops on R&D will make a lot of sense, right? You don't really have crucial cards.
From Tempest's perspective, if he loses Liberator or Cast, Paladin becomes this real big liability.
If you lose both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That seems unlikely. You're drawing free cards. Like, you will be drawing cards back.
Yeah, if I'm trying to think about his play, maybe he was more worried about the tag. For instance, if it's a ping or a VSA.
Oh, right. A VSA will fuck you up a little bit. Now, Campus says public trail, and he knows that a brand was trashed.
Yep. A ping, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a ping. And then we play Jellycast, and we're safe. And now the third marker is discarded, so
yep. And now money
is even more important.
Yep. So Rashid is amazing. I know I'm going to be threatening that this turn. And now that the third bank card is trashed, me being able to get rid of that one means my hammer becomes live. So I think I need to knock that bank card out. And now suddenly Tempest is in a really rough situation. Where
so what do we do?
You public trail, you trash the bank card, you install Rashida. Is that what I do?
Do you get money from the public trail?
Yeah, because if you draw, you're eligible to be mods.
Yeah, agree. It makes a lot of sense, and in fact, that is what we do. No bars left.
Yeah. So my opponent this turn makes what I consider to be, in the moment, a very revealing play. If I remember correctly, my opponent installs Cleaver, boomerangs the innermost, and runs. And from my perspective, this indicates really critically that my opponent does not have a Buzzsaw. The rationale being that in this situation, I think a Buzzsaw is a better install than a Cleaver.
Let me see the play. Let's confirm that this is the case. And yeah, we do run through a VSA, we take a tag.
Because I have as many end the runs that are code gates as I do that are barriers, but I also have VSA.
I completely agree with your read, yes.
Yeah. So all of this is to say this ends up being like very informative from my end, and it also means my opponent is like in a really rough tag situation.
Mhm. I have to say, I saw this game on stream. I was very surprised at some point because I was like, Tempest must have a Buzzsaw in hand. And then you made a play, we'll see it later on, that only makes sense if you think if you think Tempest doesn't have the Buzzsaw.
Yeah.
And it was
Though
like, oh.
importantly,
Hmm?
importantly, I'm only able, and this is the turn that made me think that. But the other thing that this turn does is it makes me now really confident that any boomerangs Tempest has, unless he drew both of them, are in the stack.
Yeah.
So all this is to set, and all this will come into play in about a click or two, in which I really aggressively go for a score.
Yes. I think this is really a play that showcases, like, I mean, what you're describing now is really something that showcases how reads are very, very important in China, and they're often super subtle.
Yeah. And reads are
Like,
really especially interesting in open deck lists because
yes,
I know my opponent knows that I am running a very code gate heavy deck and a very barrier light deck.
to me, the thing that really suggests that like the reason why Basil will be such a better install is not just the amount of eyes in the deck, like the types of eyes, but like as I said, my read of these eyes from a turn one play definitely implies that the outermost is a virtual service agent.
Yep.
So like if you are like, because something like ping VSA will make a lot of sense. And if you have the boomerang and you expect a virtual service agent to be in the outermost, then you certainly will install the Balsa because you want to break it. So normally we would expect like a Baslu to be in the top 22.5 cards. Now we know it's not there. Now we know it's in the next 14 cards maybe. But that means there's potential a lot of time for you to abuse this gear check. And it's very, very powerful. So you get credits
fair,
from
four cards because it's Buzzsaw or Boomerang. Boomerang,
right.
My opponent I think is almost definitely going to tag me the rest of this game. Boomerang is basically as powerful as Buzzsaw here.
Agreed, yes. Maybe, yes. Right, and we draw into a self-groove.
Yeah, now you're in that sort of heart of the cards mode against the Hoshiko deck, where the Maw is out and you just play whatever you draw and hope you draw good cards. Admittedly, here, I actually think like I'm gonna be making 2 draws this turn. I think almost any combo of 2 cards feels pretty good. Because I can threaten a score on server 1, I have tag punishments, getting an extra ice now that all the bank cards is gone feels amazing. So I think like most circumstances, Heart of the Cards is like really good this turn. But regardless, I can't just do a self-growth, so I draw one more, hope I get an agenda.
I don't think you're really in Heart of a Card mode right now, though, because you're about to bounce them all, so you can actually keep cards in hand.
True.
Like, this is exactly the moment when the game turns. Also, this is very funny to me to see, because I hadn't looked at the replay before just now, and you took a long time to draw this card, and that really felt like you top decked the self-growth after this. And seeing that you had it in hand for like 3 minutes.
I say specifically Heart of the Cards. I do that in part because I really like Tempest and because like I wanted to be a bit fun. But also there's like I want my opponent to feel like everything is going my way.
Okay,
like,
so there is a psychological component there. Okay.
I like to think I'm a nice person outside of games, but in a game, there's always a bit of a psychological opponent. Like, one thing that anyone who knows me in person knows, if you play a game against me in person, is I'm always going to make a big deal about how good my keeps are, even though very often my keeps are, like, very mediocre.
I mean, sometimes it has to... be a good idea to do the opposite, right?
I think maybe it's just a matter of confidence. I like when my opponents think things are going well for me because I'd much rather my opponents think things are going well and make weird lines. It's sort of like how you will sometimes like really aggressively go for an NGO one of the last near the end of a game, even though that NGO is not a Bologna and is not going to win you the game, because your opponent will make really interesting and strange moves when they think they're in like the last turn. And in this case, like I feel sort of similarly.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I see what you mean by the NGR comment. I have lost games this way. Um,
so I say heart of the cards. Admittedly, I wanted to say it before my first draw, but in this case, I say it. I draw. I don't remember what I draw. I think it's just nice.
go hard of the cards. Oh yeah, I think obviously in like a timed game you would have drawn immediately, I guess. Here I think you actually wait a moment before you draw.
Yeah, I think there are lines I consider where I don't draw because there are cards I could draw that like I don't want to see. There's also like you could do a line self growth and then also manually trash the daily cast, in which case draw becomes a bit of a liability.
Mhm.
But in this case, there are so many good possible draws that
Yes, like
I
if you
felt
draw
like I
Rashida, you're so good.
yeah. You
Um,
draw Rashida, you're so good. You draw tomorrow's headline, you're
yeah.
so good. You draw pretty much any agenda besides Fly
Mhm.
on the Wall. You draw Hollow Man, you feel great because you put it in
Yep.
server one. Only your opponent needs to be making decisions.
You draw
But
into a hammer here, which I guess is not particularly relevant right now. Like, it's not a great card to see at the moment.
it's not
Um,
ideal, but it's fine to hold, especially because the Maw is going away.
yes.
So self growth, like it's one of those situations where it's a forced move. You have to hit the fermenter in the Maw.
Hmm.
So you hit, but I spent a long time trying to find another line. Like I really wanted to find a reason to bounce the hammer,
Hmm.
but like the fermenter is so important to hit, and Maw is necessary just so my opponent has the influence. And then I click for a credit, so I have hammer as a threat.
Okay. So kind of indicating that you have the hammer. I don't really see this credit click because I don't think R&D being run is a risk anyway at all.
I
And
guess I have trouble seeing what else you do because I don't want to draw.
why not?
I could try to cast, but that makes me way too poor.
Why not draw?
I don't want to draw because I want to be able to threaten the cards that I draw. Like I would not be shocked given the fact that my opponent knows two of my four tag punishments cards are in archives.
Mhm.
If my opponent is just like, I'm gonna aggro the rest of this game and just get access after access.
Mhm.
And Hammer isn't a great card to preventing that.
I see. I think I like to me, the one thing I want the most is to like have as high of a chance as possible of being able to install Advanced alone on next turn.
True.
So that's the reason why I will draw more. I know that if you draw Valana right now, you uh you are potentially weak to HQ runs. Uh I don't know. That doesn't seem like that big of a risk to me. And if it's on the top of the deck, you draw it installed as advance and you win so easily. Whereas if like next turn you mandatory draw and then you draw one card and it's a Bologna, you're adding one more turn to your game, which is the turn that your opponent can draw a boomerang in.
For a buzzsaw.
Yes, I am saying this now with the knowledge that you had made that read for the battle that made a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
don't think I would have seen that during the game.
Yeah, I mean, the click my opponent takes is not what I anticipated at
Yeah.
all. My opponent does a move that I think is a very good one and completely unexpected. My
Yes.
read of the situation is Tempest is getting really desperate and he
Mhm.
is going to tag me. He's going to start hammering R&D. He's going to start hammering HQ. There is a chance that he just installs the Maw and just says, you're going to need to prove that your R&D ice is something I need to respect.
Mhm.
And
I guess there
unfortunately,
is. I guess there is
it's
maybe an
only
element of like Tempest has actually read the hammer. Like because you're representing hammer so hard by um clicking for the 6 credit. Um, Tempest decides that Maw is important, so I want to respect the hammer because I want to keep my Maw. So I need to be able to install Turbine plus Mimic.
yep, and that's
Uh,
a lot of
that's a lot of money you need to lay down, to deploy. Um, and and also it makes sense in his view to not laundry now to flip back because that's more money you're getting if you do flip back. Um,
yep.
so I see where his play comes from. We see a turbine being discarded, which means there's another one in hand. Um, and we
Yeah,
draw.
so now I go through the line. Like my opponent has drawn, I think, 2 cards since the Cleaver install.
Yes.
So like it could be a boomerang, it could be a buzzsaw, but like even in this board state, I think my odds of winning are like still around 50%.
Yeah, considering your read from before, it's very obvious that you should just push the alpha. Like it feels brittle on like at face value, and I think everyone in chat was like, how the fuck, like why the fuck does you make this play? It is obviously not going to work because it looks extremely brittle because the remote doesn't look solid. But it's considering the information you had gained, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um,
The
and
fly comment was very funny to me because I drew once with
yes,
the hope of drawing a seamless. Uh and then it's a fly, and then
and
Tempest
then the
goes, so
fly
it's a
is
fly, and
found. Yes,
please access the fly on the wall. And then of course
this
I
is
say, yep.
very entertaining. Okay, GG.
Yes.
Discord, yeah,
I
fuck you
think
win.
Tempest and I make a very good team.
Sorry, what?
Uh what?
What did you say?
Tempest and I think make a very good team.
Yes, I agree. I think you have a
I think
similar perspective on some things. I think the way you described, like the way you try to inflict psychological damage on your opponent,
yeah,
is yeah. Go ahead.
I think both of us I think, and I've played Tempest in person, and both
Mhm.
of us play with a very specific type of intensity,
Yes.
which I think is very fun in the moment, but can be off-putting to some. So it's always like really nice when I play with Tempest because I'm like I can have that intensity and know that Tempest sort of has been there.
Yeah,
Uh
I was thinking the same thing, which is like it's a kind of attitude that also depending on how you describe it or how you express it, I have seen being frowned upon by a lot of players. Um, but
oh,
I
myself at first too. It's something that like took me a while to appreciate as I became more of that kind of player.
yeah, and but both you and Tempest are really good at it, and it works. I think like with Tempest, my experience has been that it works very well. Like he does it very well online. We have played some Pax Pamir online, and it is definitely the kind of game that you like having this attitude for. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this was also like seeing the banter between the two of you was very great. Like you just have very good energy while playing together.
Yeah.
Um, okay, this actually like we actually took a very long time commentating this, and I think if we stick to what we had envisioned for time, we may have one more.
Yeah, I
And
think one more makes sense. And then we can do like a super stream like in a week or something of PE.
yeah, yeah. So
Let's let's see your game. I want to see it because we have a different, I guess, origin. Because you watched this game live on stream. During
Mhm.
your game, I was very much asleep.
Oh, you didn't see the game at all. Okay, okay, that's interesting.
No,
So
I saw the end of this one.
okay.
But by the end, I was like, it's in a rough spot.
Hmm. But
Like,
you did see the other one, the
I
other
did
game.
see the other one. I think I saw the other one fully.
Hmm.
But this
Yeah.
one, I like woke up, checked my stream. I very much was like Squidward meme. Like, I then go back to the beginning and I just sort of bounce to the blank has won. And it's like, I was going backwards, of course. So I go backwards and I see Lost Geek has won, Lost Geek has won. And I'm like, oh, maybe there's a chance we've already won four. And then
We hadn't. No.
it was a
Um,
2-2, and it's like, great.
okay, so the other game I think is interesting from some points of view. Like I think the other game is I played it very well. I can't comment on Koga's play that much because I was on the opposite side. I think I played it very well, and there were a lot of intricate lines that I did perfectly, and some that I did very like still very well, but still the matchup was so lopsided that it didn't really need to like I don't know. Uh, there weren't as much situations where it was like, oh, if I fuck this up, I really lose here. So maybe it's less interesting or able to commentate. Whereas I think this game was very complex to navigate, and I think I made some significant mistakes.
Oh, I'm
Um,
super excited.
I think I think I made some significant mistakes that only ended up like proving uh, to be that much later in the game. So like by the final turns, I was like, oh, I should have done this 5 turns ago. Um, so we have mulch. This is a kind of regular mulch list with a couple of changes compared to what I usually play. We have Dedicasts, which are money. We don't
Yep.
have DJ Fenris, but have double P-hole threading instead, which I've been enjoying a lot. We have
Yeah.
Tranquilizer instead of Revolver, and Boitata is a killer that we seldom play. We have
Yeah,
Hush,
but
which I'm not sure
Revolver
is
also
needed.
was seldom we played.
Sorry, what?
Revolver also was a killer
Yeah,
you seldomly.
exactly.
There,
It just felt quite like really easy to play when we did. Um, we have a Hush, which is not used that often but can be useful. We have one Gachapon with my I've been enjoying it a lot, and I think I could go up to two. Um, so, but the rest is
no comment.
pretty regular list. Yeah, it's what people have seen in general coming
Yeah,
from
I mean, the
Mulch.
big thing, I was just discussing this with Snare Bears, is like these mulch lists are just full of cards
Hmm.
that you are going to be playing in less than 10 to 15% of matchups, but you are so happy you're running them.
Yeah, because it's a toolbox deck. Like you can put
Exactly.
all of your deck in the bin and then you recur whatever you need. I still think you could cut you could cut the Hush. I think the deck could probably get a couple cards smaller. But also Gachapon, maybe actually adding a second Gachapon will do more towards making the deck smaller and more manageable than actually cutting cards.
I see that. I could
Uh,
see it being better. I generally don't love Gachapon because to me, I want any econ cards I'm running to be
mhm.
throwing things in the bin. But you're running 3 Moshing and 3 the price and 3 Lago, so I don't see like a problem with running uh the gacha. But
Yeah.
like I think generally the tempo gain from gacha is deceptively minimal in this specific deck.
I think more than the more than that, it's like the ability to dig for whatever you're missing. I think the big reason why I came to like Gachapon in here is that um, It's actually not a turn one card. I kind of hate drawing a turn one. It's a mid game card that you play
Yep.
when you have already gotten some of your like engine pieces like Audrey and Lago and Playman Cookbook on the board, and now you have things you can remove. Like
Yeah.
once you're in like when you're like at turn four, you have a pretty concrete idea of what cards are filler in your deck, and you can improve both your draws and your mills pretty significantly. So that's why we're only playing one, because in the opener it's kind of a bad card because you have to remove cards without in a way that actually hurts your consistency. Whereas a few turns later, you're actually improving it.
That's really well said. And I hadn't really thought of it that way, but it does sort of have the street peddler effect where you install it and now suddenly like any run you make might have the tool you need and your opponent needs to take advantage of that. And
Mm,
yeah, you get to like the more decision you get to make with gacha, the better. And mid
yeah,
game is when you're making the most decisions.
yeah, which is why we're not playing free. I think two could make sense. I honestly could have gone with two with this list. I just didn't get around to it yet. Um, and then we have Koga's unbanned list, video list.
Yep.
Um, this
Good
is a very
question.
interesting video list. We are playing no spins. We're playing
Yep.
two corporate hospitalities instead. And also, we're
That's
playing no
recursion.
Marvelous. Sorry, what?
That's recursion.
That's recursion. It is recursion. You also have PD, which is recursion. And we are playing no Marvelous. I guess we're sort of playing next active action command instead, which is something that turns off your botulus. It makes breaking ice incredibly difficult for Mulch because Audrey will often ask for one more card per piece of ice.
Yeah.
And when you need to use Audrey for a whole server, like that is a very big ask. Like it is very easy to discard two cards from hand, but when it becomes four cards from hand, it is not twice as difficult. It is much more than that. Um, and Cleaver and Battle can basically not be used when this is on because my list doesn't play Leech.
Yeah.
And Boitata does pretty well into next. No comment there. And then we are opting to use all the influence we're saving from Spin and Marvelous to play Tucanas, which fetches Tributary. That's the big idea there. I think I didn't really appreciate how strong Tucana Tributary was until I actually played this game. Like, I think in the test games I played, this didn't really come up.
Mm.
And it ended up being super important because Tributary really shot me off to a significant extent during this game. And then we played two border controls because they're good and they're especially good with Next. Uh, the rest is pretty standard. There's an Eli, which you wouldn't play in a lot of cases, but it's again good with Next. Good against Cleaver, good because it can't be clicked. Two magnets, which are very important. I will have to check things a lot to try and clear magnets before I sell my Bachelai. Those grafters. This is a very weird list. But in ways, like in some ways, you will be like, okay, my fermenters are really good because PD can often like throw your economy by purging the fermenters, and it's terrible for you. Here they're very good, but some other things
Yeah.
don't really work. As you will see, this is a game where I just don't draw my fermenters basically. So like I get all of the cons and none of the pros of the matchup, I think.
Yeah. No, it does seem like the tools that are going to be important are going to be different. Like the other card that I'm thinking might be really powerful in this matchup
Mm-hmm.
is Tranquilizer.
Tranquilizer is really
Because
powerful. We will see it almost coming into play multiple times, and then it never does. And that's why I really say like I could have won this game with better management of my very limited resources, because we really came close to doing things like playing Tranquilizer, which will basically win me the game if employed well and employed in time. but then we like it's a very non-linear uh, function of like if I have just improved my resource handling, my resource management by a little bit, the payoff would have been huge. Um,
Yeah.
and then I don't quite get there. So, um, right, Koga Mulligans. Mulligans a list that I think, Mulligans a hand that I think I would often keep. But I guess you're expecting most to check the
This the
draft
hand
here.
I'm kind of curious.
Hmm?
Is this the hand Code Gate Mulligans?
Yes,
I think I have to mulligan. That's
really.
like drafter feels so not there right now, and like so I because I'm a dork, I've done the math on PD specifically because I have a lot of keeper
Hmm.
mulligans. On any given mulligan, you have a 53% chance of getting 2 ice on the dots.
Hmm.
So generally, if it's 1 ice, I'm only going to be playing it if it's a good ice, and drafter is not the good ice here.
Okay. Have a call. I will take it on time. Okay. And I keep my hand, which I am starting to doubt inside. I guess I am like Bocholos is very good right now. It's going to get worse as next activation command becomes the thing the corp can do a couple times in a row. But I want it now.
Yeah.
The price is amazing. Lagoporno is amazing. The only thing that's missing in here is money, really. But I'm hoping to draw into it.
Yeah,
So,
I've generally I do mostly loop over Hoshiko, which has slightly
mhm.
different dynamics, but I generally have a rule where if there is a price that I can feel good about playing click 1, I will almost always keep the hand.
Mhm. I think Hashiko tends
Uh,
to need a bit more money than Lu to get going, so that's more of a consideration. Here you have
totally.
basically everything you need except money, so you just, I'll price into Fermentor. Maybe mulliganing for a better hand that like had like a moshing should have been, I don't know, is what I should have done. I'm not sure.
I think that's too results oriented. I like this hand. I think he
Mhm.
makes a ton of sense.
Okay, we're seeing an install, and a credit. So the credit kind of makes me think that there has to be like a brand or an MIC somewhere. I tend not to like this credit you don't really need it. Um, so I am thinking there is some big eyes here. Um,
Maybe, but like, yeah, I guess the read you have, I'd have there is big ice, and that big ice is protecting HQ.
yes.
Because like, why bother for the credits to res, whatever is protecting server 1?
Mm-hmm. Here I run
Yeah.
HQ, which I think makes a lot of sense. He's an MIC, you're perfectly happy. If it's a brand, you're perfectly happy. Here it's a gatekeeper, which I guess I feel okay about. Like Kurga doesn't have the money to really. There's no hedge fund in hand. There's no reason the palm in hand. I guess it could be drawn. But like Koga doesn't look like he necessarily has the money to really leverage this draw into anything that gives him a lot of tempo. So I'm fine with turning the gatekeeper off now, so that I can that like HQ has to be overized again soon.
Yeah.
So there is some draw here. Enikawa is shuffled. Usually when I see like a shuffled Ikawa, I tend to assume there's a second Ikawa in hand. I think that's what I assumed.
I think
So,
that's sensible.
because like it is hard to actually redraw into it. Like it's very possible that you just don't find it.
Yeah, and it's a mold hand, which like makes it look like real awkward
Mhm.
draws.
Here I price into strike and liberize the price conduit. That's quite unfortunate, I think. Like that's not the kind of price I want. Conduit is an okay thing to find. But it's not something I will usually, rely on or something I really want to install. It's almost free here, so I take it.
Yeah, I mean, Conduit feels great in this matchup because there's no Mav, and like you can
Mhm.
already tempo positive get it on one counter on R&D.
Yes, and I have an op in hand. But
Yeah.
like this is simply not the time, like the point of the game where I want the conduit to be, you know,
Yep.
I want the conduit to be my thing. I still have to make a run this turn, so I guess I will run R&D and get a counter on. I see a Bran, and I will
Yep.
install my Legobarna, which makes a lot of sense.
I think you played that super well. I think I probably priced in Lago before running HQ. Just because could have given Botchless. But
You mean you will try it because you can hit Botulus, and where would you put the Botulus?
you could hit Botchless and then put it on HQ, and then your run becomes more reliable. You could price and just hit something that changes your play. Like in this case, you price into conduits, which
Yeah,
makes me think
I would just run
that
R&D.
you might not have even needed to do the HQ run.
Yeah, you're right.
And then I do the Lago just to burn a click in case of MIC. But I think you played that super well.
No, I think Price was the right click one. I think you're right. So if I Price, I probably just run R&D and don't pressure HQ, and I like draw a card.
Yeah.
And I think that ends up being quite good. Cognizing R&D, I don't know what my read is on this piece of ice. I know it could be the brand. I know it's not necessarily the brand. But I'm keeping it in mind as a possibility. I think it might as well be the brand, because like if that's the only piece of ice Koga has, he will just install it, potentially blocking something else, even though he can't res it now. So I draw the Hoshiko, I find my bad self, and I draw into a Stimul chip, which cannot install anything. Draw into a Cleaver. These are pretty bad draws, the way I see it.
Oh, these are awful.
And like I just don't have anything that gets me started on building any kind of engine.
Yeah.
Now I
This is
click.
basically your drawing for the moshing.
Yeah, here I'm drawing for the mashing, exactly. Here I'm clicking for a card and installing the chip. In hindsight, I think here I click for a third card actually.
Yeah, I agree. You
Because
click for the third card. Your Simul chip isn't doing much, and you feel fine trashing the Buzzsaw and the Cleaver.
I click for a third card and then probably I install the Simul chip and I trash
Yeah.
one breaker because I like having an element of surprise still. But yeah, I do always want to have like a program in the bin at any time
True.
for CIGS reasons. So it's good to get that there. Okay, so Koga will install the Tucana and I'll Lago trashing the Gachapon for a Simul chip. Again, nothing I can use. There's a Rashida installed and there's a magnet there. So what do you do here?
Moments I was like, Koga could next, but then yeah, what are you nexting for to protect the magnets?
No,
Like,
yeah, I think next is
like
like you only have two nexts. You have to keep them for more important moments, and this is not it.
true.
The magnet looks safe, right? This is where, like, if I had this card at the Basso display, would it be possible? So that's a reason to
Yeah.
aggressively discard, like draw to discard breakers if you have a Simul chip down.
True.
Here I sold the Bachelors, which is a risky play, but this looks like a very important install. So
Yeah.
I want to try and do it. And like one of the things I'm considering is this could be an MIC.
Yep, I think that's super sensible.
Kaga is again signaling, like going up to 6 credits and signaling that like it could be just put a brand on R&D, but given the 6 credit capped on turn 1, I think this is further signaling this is a brand or an MIC on the remote. I think this battle kind of makes sense. I tend to try and hit.
It also gives you a Simul chip hits.
That's right.
Like,
yes.
I think this is a super sensible play.
It ends up getting punished. I will generally try to suss the magnets out before I install my botula. In this case, I had a pretty confident read on the MIC, I guess.
I wouldn't blame yourself. I think you played that. I think that's a
Mhm.
super sensible move.
I conduit here because at this point, Very little that can punish me, and in my eyes, it's likely a brand steal. Because otherwise,
Yep,
why would you go to 6?
I like this play.
Obviously, a drafter. I don't. I like after passing this ice, I feel more confident in my read that this is a brand. Actually, not reading the drafter, of course, makes a lot of sense because there's really nothing to recur or no installs to that makes a lot
Yeah,
of
I don't
sense to
think
do.
there's anything you res there. Like Gatekeeper, you don't even, I think, want to res.
Mhm. I see a hedge fund and I see a seamless launch. So
That doesn't feel great.
it is kind of sad. I do draw a card here and this card about to, and again, I draw into the pinhole threading a little too late.
Yep.
Um, this would have probably been the play if I had drawn it a moment before. Again, like this is, I think it's punishing me for not drawing harder earlier on, both in the sense of not drawing better
Maybe.
cards and not drawing more cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have drawn bad cards. Like, I think you
Yeah,
needed
it's partly
to be
that.
looking for credits. You needed to be putting threats so your opponents can't just sort of walk on you.
Hmm.
Like, I think your play has been absolutely fine.
I think it's been fine. I don't think it's been great. Like I think the I you like I think I played the other game much better for sure. And
I can move it.
this felt kind of like a warm up on my end, or I guess I'm kind of um not tuned uh into mulch recently. I've not really been feeling it.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Mulch. I was discussing this recently. I think Mulch
mhm,
has a Red Queen problem where everything corp wise got better and Mulch is sort of the same.
mhm, yes, and also other runners got better. So and other corps are making choices to adapt to other runners, but not in ways that leave most particularly advantaged. Like I guess Lou has great game into some of the horizontal decks
Yeah.
that have been like popping up, but think it's I don't think Hoshiko really has much of a reason. I don't like I think Hoshiko really lost a little bit. It's also like the way that this kind of mulch played like preyed on some rush decks is something you can do just as well with crew. So the deck is kind of in a weird spot right now.
Yeah. I fully agree. I think Mulch is still probably the best thing to be bringing, but I
Agreed.
think, yeah, I think Mulch just like, I think loose style Mulch at least is just
Mm-hmm.
so even around the board. And like, it is, I think in the last year and a half, it has gotten so much harder to find decks that are like even into the board. Like I think the
Mm-hmm.
last deck that had as even a matchup as Mulch does is Big Max.
Yeah, that
Like
makes sense.
we are in just such a polarized meta right now, which is good. We're in a polarized meta because good cards were printed. But it
Mhm.
also means that you're making these really like when you make mulch, you pick it because it's the one deck you can bring that carries with it a minimal amount of sacrifice.
That makes sense. I guess if you're Lou, you need a plan to beat Glacier, but that's something you can include.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we have Rashida being fired, we see Hedge Fund, Ran install, MIC install.
And suddenly this now feels so much harder.
Yes, but like one of the things it means is conduit isn't really needed. Like I mean, it's it can still be the gateway to a win, but it's not something you will just easily get value with. Like
Yep.
um and
Yeah. So,
the gatekeeper on HQ feels like particularly brittle and targetable. I guess we're
yeah.
not running this turn because we really do want to flip back.
Yeah, I
But
think you just need to draw for a money. Like right now you are so desperate
yes,
to see a mulching.
and we find an Audrey, and then we draw for a strike fund, which I suppose is something.
That's
Um,
acceptable.
we
Now
credit,
you
play the simul chip.
Yeah, I can see it.
We don't need to play the strike fund right now, not strictly.
I
Uh,
agree.
the Wild Turtle is
It's
saying
Audrey
surprised
like
Carp is not pushing an agenda on the last turn. And well, pushing an agenda is possible. It puts you quite a lot of money because you can't play the hedge fund and put another piece of ice on the remote. You will be stuck with just a magnet, and you know that there is a bottom in the bin. So with just the magnet, the agenda will be contestable. With the brand, the agenda is still something you can contest because you just click through the brand. So I understand why Koga is taking it slower.
Yeah,
So we install an architect. I
that's a
lose a
great hit.
fermenter and
Oh,
draw a
that's a
cookbook.
bad hit. The cookbook's nice.
We play a next activation command.
So the consideration now
Mhm.
is, do you simul chip Botulus for the fermenter? And I guess the answer is no, because no matter what you do this turn, you install the cookbook and it's worth the exact same amounts
I
next
agree.
turn.
Yes. I think that's very easily the answer. Like, but I do want the fermenter as soon as possible because otherwise I'm not playing a game. Like, I have not Curie Audrey. That's something I can do. I need to start doing it as soon as possible. I think this
Yeah.
is where I make a very crucial mistake, though. Here I
Okay.
draw a card.
Sensible.
I run HQ
Oh, interesting.
and Batso here because I want to get my Shika trigger and I want to get my Batso on the board anyway because the magnet is something I'm going to have to deal with.
Yeah. And this is results oriented thinking, but I
Mhm.
think the line I do is pinhole.
Yeah, that's here. I also do not install the fermenter, which is baffling to me. I don't know why I don't install the fermenter. I guess I want to keep a chip around
Yep.
because I maybe want to install the cleaver. I want to reinstall the botulus. I guess I'm thinking like, oh, I will draw into a moshing.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things I miss every game, and I like, depending on the circumstance, either awkwardly am like, can I undo, or like just it's a tournament like this and I just kick myself. But like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I
I
just think it's very clearly a misplay.
I agree.
Um,
It's
and I think I
I think
realized
this
it a little bit later. Also, yeah, the pinhole is like this is a bit results oriented because like um, if if you pinhole and it's a skunk, you are pretty sad.
I agree.
But
But you
also,
pinhole
mhm,
skunk. You also now know that they don't have Tucana online. And I also, and this is something that like is a very Lou-minded thing, do like aggressively pinholing upgrades because of Mavirus, but this deck doesn't run them.
yes, I
Well, if it's
figured
skunk,
what's probably best because like if Tucana takes out, I didn't consider like I was like if there's Tucana, there's a piece of ice. That's not a big deal. But if there's a Tucana, that's a tributary.
yep. But
I
also if it's
mhm,
Kana, sorry, if it's skunk, does Koga bother playing next? Like skunk
that's a
Bran is
question.
almost
Yeah,
skunk magnet's almost definitely enough to keep you out that turn.
you're right. That's a consideration actually. This is much more likely to be a Tucana because of that.
Yeah.
And if I trash Tucana, like in this case, like Koga happens to have a Tucana in hand, but pushing it becomes much more difficult because now that's no next. So I think I really like the pinhole in hindsight. Like I think this is just play strike fund, play pinhole, see what happens. And you don't necessarily take up the puzzle, use a single chip at all this turn. You just play the cookbook and draw a card, maybe. I think this makes a lot more sense to me.
Yep.
I guess I guess there is actually one good reason why I might have not used the second symbol chip, which is if there is a Tucana score, um, like a tributary comes out,
True.
and I maybe want to be able to botchless it because though I don't think that's what I do, so I'm really don't think there are good reasons why I end up doing the play I do. So Koga scores the architect here as the
Yep.
choice of doing the triggers in whichever order he prefers. Um,
Yep.
which is interesting. He chooses to go with the Tucana first and then do the Architect. I guess if you did it this way, you have a slightly worse pool for Architect, but also you don't have the benefit of knowing the top four cards in your deck, which I guess is a pretty big benefit.
I think that's massive. I think this is the right order.
Mhm. So we got Tributary, and we install a Rashida with the Architect deployment test.
Yeah.
I
But I'm
will.
also biased. Both of my PD games that I played in Fight Club were very much won by me knowing exactly the cards I was going to get as
I
Architect.
remember.
But that's also a very open deck list benefits. Like when you have open deck lists, knowing what you're going to get becomes so much stronger because you also know what counterplay your opponent has.
Yeah, you can't just think about raw value anymore. And Tributary now shuts off. Like, there's also one more reason to pinhole last turn. It's like, if there's a Tucana, then pinhole sucks.
Yeah.
Starting from the next turn, because you can't really. Like, the thing is, I guess I really hadn't actually figured out Tucana Tributary isn't just a thing this deck can do, but it's what this deck is about. I guess it didn't come out that relevantly in testing while what we were testing the matchup. So
Yeah.
I wasn't like, oh, this is the big thing this deck does. And I didn't really prepare for it properly and know that I have to be worried about this.
Yep.
Seamless launch is taken back to hand. I have lagged away a moshing to draw a cookbook, so again, very unlucky hits. And here I draw a Botulus, which is a great thing to find.
That's a great hit.
Um, we can Botulus the Tributary, we can only break one, and we trust the Rashida. I think rushing the Rashida has to be right here, rather than the Tucana. Having the corp on 4
Agree.
credits is important.
Nope, super agree.
Though I will like some credits too.
Yeah, the ones I'm just trying to think, is there a world in which you conduit R&D? Because
Mm.
Koga has chosen a Rashida on server 1
Mm-hmm.
when there are like at least 10 cards in that deck I would have rather hit uh than a Rashida.
Mm-hmm.
Like Skunkworks is better here.
You think
Pretty much
so?
any ice that isn't Gatekeeper is better. I like Skunkworks over because you want to keep that Tucana safe.
Hmm.
And Skunkworks does that because right now all you have is a magnet protecting it, and your opponent already has a buzzsaw visible.
I didn't consider actually just running the remote rather than playing the pinhole, which maybe could have been great. I guess I didn't have a very strong of a read on these eyes on the remote.
Drafter is game losingly rough though.
Yes. And also, like, you're talking about running R&D. I guess there's a question here about um what like whether you should play by the reads you should have had or by the reads you made. I had read this
True.
as a brand,
True.
so maybe considering I had read, but like the ice on top could be a drafter. I think R&D, like conduiting here, still puts me in the same situation where I risk hitting a drafter, and Hirashida is just devastating here.
For Drafter though, if you were gonna do the R&D run, you install Audrey before running R&D.
With money that's not here.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
absolutely the problem.
okay, that's the thing. Um, I think one of
But
the
Drafter is one more, or Audrey is one more than Botchless.
mhm. Here I do an interesting play. I wonder if you can guess what I do after this Rashida, which is not running R&D.
Oh, I'm curious. Let me see if I can. I know it's not you install the clots for like 5 reasons. Now that I know some of the plays, it isn't. I think I draw here, but I'm not sure.
I actually click for a credit and install the clot.
Wild for Simulchip.
Yes. Like part of it is I'm not really using a credit because I'm going to zero with Rashida being flipped. Um,
Mm,
in retrospect, tempo is so important that sacrificing the conduit made more sense.
yep, I
Like,
think I agree.
this cloud is a value move where I'm like, I can keep my conduit, um, but I don't really need my conduit to win the game. I just need to lock down the remote and pressure HQ. R&D, like, conduit has already done its job by making the fork install twice on R&D. Um, I don't really need it anymore. What I need is to get money going because I have Knob and Audrey in hand, and also like I need to be able to install Audrey. Having a Botulus on the tributary makes it very awkward to install Audrey because the mu is so tight. So I either install the knob first, or if I install the Audrey, I'm going to be likely to have to throw away the conduit anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it's like I don't think it's an incredibly wrong move, but it
No,
does like read as like the like epitome example of a weird move you make because you want to maximize Hoshiko value.
yeah, I don't think Oshiko value is specifically what I'm maximizing here. I'm maximizing value more generally. Like, I'm keeping the conduit because I think it's just a valuable card to have. And the thing is, the value of conduit is so low, and the importance of doing something else, like drawing into emotion right now, is so high that
It
yeah, it's not worth. Like, this has very minimal cost to do, but the value
yes.
but the cost of trashing away conduit is also so low that I can do something else.
In a tone positive way, it's
Mm-hmm.
a very Wolf 1 move.
It's very.
Wolf 1 move.
What does that mean?
Wolf 1 is the value wolf. The wolf in your
Oh,
soul that is trying to maximize value. And Wolf 2 is the draw cards, do whatever you can do, and run as many servers as you can.
I didn't know of these wolves. Very
And the
happy that
wolf
now
that
I do.
wins
What?
and the wolf
Mhm.
and the wolf that wins is the one you feed.
I understand. This makes a lot of
Now,
sense. I I think in this case, I was hoping for too much from Conduit,
yeah,
and I like again as we will see, the game being lost comes down a lot to um like the value just being sort of barely there but not quite.
yeah,
So even this kind of very small um, optimization thing, which normally we wouldn't fret about much, ends up being crucial. So
I can
Koga
imagine.
has corporate hospitality for Rashida.
Well, oh, interesting. Still doing the Rashida and not doing the Luminal. I guess Koga
Mhm.
can't really represent the Luminal.
You can't. It's also bad to score. Like, you score it and you go to free. You have a hedge
Yeah,
fund in hand. Like,
true.
on a side note, like,
Yeah, yeah, I like this line.
hospitality leads you to draw so many cards every time. And you end up overdrawing so often, even in PD. Um, I really
Yeah.
haven't been. I really haven't been. I haven't played it a lot, but I really don't like it because I think it's much better if you can play it from a lower and total.
Yep.
And I don't think PD is there very often.
Yeah. And the 2 clicks is like very costly. It
Yes.
really is, I think, an incredibly well designed, like VLC like though. Like it does all the things that made VLC fun, but like every part of it is a little bit worse, which makes it like feel like it won't get banned, which is
It is.
nice.
You can really be a mistake to play it in many situations because it has so many
Yeah.
drawbacks. It is good against Maw. It is a bunch of very fun things that it does. But it is
Yeah.
much weaker. A Wild Turtok is saying keeping Conduit might just be simple sunk cost fallacy. And yeah, I guess like cases where you're feeding Wolf one more, or like many more than you should, tend to be sunk cost fallacy, where you're like, I want all of my cards to do the best they can, and so I want to keep them for as long as they can. Um, I guess it's something like that.
Yeah,
I will do the thing with Clot and draw an imp. So I keep drawing cards I don't need. I have put 3 Delicasts in my deck. Sorry, 2 Delicasts. I have 2 Raindrops. I have 3 Moshings.
yeah. I
I'm not
think
drawing those
like
cards.
this very much like has the energy of like this is a game where where the larger than usual deck size really worked against you.
Yes, I think this deck should really cut a couple cards.
Yeah.
Um, I draw Raindrops. And the Simul shape, so the money is kind of getting there. But we're going to have to wait a
Yeah, you
moment
have a
more.
really good next turn.
Yeah, it looks that way. Now I can discard cards I don't really need anyway. Um, and next turn I am hoping to click up. It's very unlikely that the core purchase anyway.
Is
So
there
yeah.
I don't know what happens. Is there a world here where Koga doesn't res Rashida and just purges? I guess Koga can't with the Simul chip outs.
Hmm. I don't think there's much value there. Like
Yeah, I think that with the Simul chip, it's not enough value.
your PD, you have to go faster than that. Like
Yep.
your HQ is kind of weak, so
Yeah,
you know if you purge, I'm going to run HQ next turn,
true.
and you don't want like right now you have 2 agendas in a 6 card hand. You want to be doing stuff to protect the HQ or to throw agendas into the remotes. If you purge, there's a very decent chance you lose an agenda there, and you don't want that.
True.
So Rashida is the play. We draw a lot of good cards. We play Hatch Fund, we install Manigarm, and that's a Stillskin.
It's Tranquilizer,
Mm-hmm.
which is shockingly not able to do very much in this board state.
Not right now, no.
The Tranquilizer means you want to be real careful about runs, because what you really want to be able to do is Tranquilizer of a tributary.
Not necessarily. I think like the Tributary has a Battles on it. It's really not an issue.
True.
Except for next turns, but like there's one next left.
True.
And it's okay to trigger it once. And like I really think it's not a big deal. I think Tranquilizer wants to go on 6 cost dice.
Agreed.
HQ stays weak here, but we haven't drawn any more agendas, so we only have one in hand, so that's fine. So here, what would you do?
What would I do here? My opponent is representing a strong threat.
Mm-hmm.
100% you're popping the fermenter.
Yeah.
But
Just pick one, I think.
yeah. But I'm trying to think. I have 8 credits. I have Cleaver and Bin. I don't have Boitada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm too conduit pilled, but I think it's Fermenter, Audrey, Conduit, R&D.
I think the core has too many credits for me to want to conduit. 1 sec. 20?
Like, I guess the way I sort of see it is, right now you are, I think, you're well beyond the ADT level. So this is almost definitely an agenda threat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really don't want to get to 4 agenda points, but I see pretty much no reliable way you can prevent that.
Mm-hmm.
So like my Wolf 2 brain is just like you need to just get accesses.
Yeah.
Like you aren't going to win if you don't have accesses. Your opponent is a 44 card deck, which is currently 19 in R&D and 1 scored. So that means that of the 9 cards that are unknown, 3 to 4 would be expected to be agendas, and the play does not seem that way. So R&D seems like it's going to be loaded.
Yeah, but I don't see this. Like, I don't see any reliable way to actually get in. Like, there are 2 pieces of ice, and one of them I expect to be a brand.
Well, can't you just reliably get in with Audrey. One of them you get in with Audrey, and the other you simulchip whatever you need to get in.
What about Mew?
What?
What do you do with
Oh, you
Mew
don't have
points?
Knob!
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Knob! Okay. Yeah, no, this is a different. This is now a difference. Yeah, I think you have to prioritize getting the Knob Curie.
yeah. So, but like, do you even have enough money at this point? Like, 8 credits is not enough to actually do the things you need to do. Like, with eight
Okay.
credits, you throw down the Knob Curie, and then you're kind of done.
Okay, here's the line then. Real battle. Okay. Pop ferment. Actually, maybe it's not a bad line. You pop fermenter,
Mhm.
install Knob Curie, immediately reinstall the fermenter, run HQ, use Knob Curie to put a counter on the fermenter, and then maybe pop fermenter again, but probably just raindrops for value or imp for value, or do some value move.
You would have the ability to install an imp if you wanted. You have exactly the clicks and credits to do it.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Fermenter, imp, knob, fermenter back, run HQ. Did I get it?
Yes. I think the your line is very good, and it might be the best line I could do here.
I hope that's what you did.
No, that's not what I do.
Ah,
I don't think. I don't 100% remember what I do actually. I popped a fermenter. I installed an Knob Curie. Oh no, I think I go like this imp is not enough value that I'm sure.
you're not entirely wrong. Like, I think this is a totally sensible move. As long as you plan on using the simul chip to get knob value on a fermenter, I'm pretty happy.
Mhm. Koga here moves the tributary to HQ, which I
Yep,
think
that's
is wrong.
mistake. Yeah, that's very wrong.
Here, draw a card from it.
What I think Koga's probably thinking is Tranquilizer Worry, which was the same thing I have.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's just a free card.
I see the Architect, so that's great.
Right?
I draw a fermenter.
Everything is going your way right now.
Sort of, like I still feel a bit behind. I installed the fermenter, and I do not use the
Yeah.
symbol chip. No,
I think
keeping this, so like if I had installed a himp in this case, I wouldn't have seen the fermenter beforehand. I would have had maybe to symbol chip the fermenter back in.
yeah.
This is
And I think the
Mhm.
bonus conduit is a really sad use case for Knob Curry right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think any other Knob Curry use case, whether that's Audrey Fermenter or Imp, would have been better.
Yeah, but I'm not super upset about the way things ended up. One nice thing about this is I got to keep the symbol chip for Tranquilizer.
Yeah. So my assumption is next turn is going to be Luminal, or yeah, get Luminal and then do some shenanigans, then Purge.
Instead, we do Luminal, we get the Drafter with Tucana, and
Okay.
we Corporate Hospitality for next activation
Ugh.
command.
Okay.
We push something which happens to be a Tranquility and a Rashida.
Yep.
Okay.
So Koga is very actively trying to threaten the win here.
Possibly, yes, but like not this turn for sure. Like you wouldn't push an Ingawa without actually playing the next.
Yeah. Okay. This is the turn where I'm going to start tunneling R&D, I think.
So would you play Audrey, run R&D?
I think I pop for Mentor, play Audrey, run R&D.
Okay, and you have
That
a cleaver in the
way,
back.
yeah.
And a botulus. Sorry, a cleaver in the bin and a botulus in the bin. I think is
Yep.
there a second botulus? Yes. That makes sense.
Like, this is just like, it's 8 total agendas, 3 are visible, and I think the 4th one could just be threatened right now in server 1. Server 1.
I think it makes sense, yes. Like
So
if Fermenter,
you,
play Audrey,
and then run, because you
Yes.
want to make sure you can seal the Ikawa, though in this case it wouldn't matter because of the MIC.
You also, I guess, you want to keep a click to spare for Bran, in case the Bran is rezzed. Because they're not going
True,
to be
though
able to
Bran
break
I
Bran
probably
fully.
immediately just take a botchless too if I can.
Maybe. A wild Turtok is asking me, Tuna, why have you not yet discarded the Audrey? Would it not be beneficial to have the clicks? You mean if, like, I want to simulship an Audrey in? I guess that's right. I don't remember what I discarded last turn. I discarded an imp. I guess so. I guess there is an element of, like, if I'm discarding an Audrey, I am telegraphing that an Audrey is coming. Especially if I'm discarding an Audrey, I am telling my opponent that there is an Audrey in hand as well. And that's a lot of information I'm giving away. I think it's probably, like, I discarded an imp, which is also a thing I want to simulship in. I don't think there are actually, like, since drawing the second one, I don't think there's actually any other cases where I've discarded a card that was kind of useless to discard. I think it makes sort of as much sense as discarding the imp. They could be at a similar tier. I know though that I am not particularly interested in reinstalling DeAndre from the bin because I want to keep the symbol chip for Tranquilizer, because Tranquilizer is one of the best cards I have in this matchup. So that's something I want to keep. I am not discarding the Tranquilizer actively, because I know I'm going to have an Audrey in play, hopefully at some point soon. And so I want to try to Tranquilizer with Audrey as a surprise play to install to simul chip it immediately.
I like it.
What do I end up doing here? I do not remember. Oh, I challenged the remote.
Oh,
No, I agree.
could see
Conduit
it.
could have been better.
I could see it both Managarm and 3 upgrades. Like it seems like not the move.
Yes. With Monogram being quite likely, I don't think this is the move. I guess what I'm trying to do is get. No, you're just right that Conduit has potentially very high value here.
Yeah.
I think the likely, like, I think it's very possible that I do not get into R&D, but I get so many things rezzed that I get a lot of information and the corp has to hold back significantly.
Like I could see it. I just like 11's a lot of credits, and all Koga needs to do is like res Managarm, and this run feels miserable, and the brand just kind of ices the cake.
1 sec. I need a moment.
So I guess the question here is, I think in this case, with brand res, you're gonna want to let it fire. Well, the question is, like, there's 3 unseen cards in archives, and one of them's almost definitely an ice. Like, once you have a brand out, like, that's like, this server is now not gonna be one you ever run again. Like,
Sorry,
this is
were
the
you talking
last
to me? I had stepped away for a second.
No, I was just talking to the
Okay.
stream.
Okay.
This is like the last. I think you let brand fire here, because I think this is the last time you're ever running this server, because your opponent isn't going to threaten something now without a next, and Bran is just like a complete. You are not getting through once next is out.
Yeah.
So I think I just bounce.
I think you bounce and you conduit.
Yep.
I think actually, like, given this outcome is even better than if you had conduited in the first place.
Yep, I agree. This actually was probably your best.
I don't think this is what I do though. I actually do break the brand.
I understand why in like a very high stakes tournament, that's the line you want to make, though.
I think, like, in general, I tend to not pivot toward conduit. Like, I like, compared to a lot of other people who play mulch, I tend to not pivot into conduit hard enough. And
I think it's a play style thing.
it's a playstyle thing. I think part of the reason why I don't is that, especially when playtesting moves for words, I think it will very often happen was we will have this, um, especially against PD or Rush Up, we will have this board state where the remote was something I could kind of threaten or get into, but it was tight. And then there was Conduit, which was much easier face value to do.
Yeah,
But then the problem is if you conduit, you are actively digging for the movers that will like remove your chance to
true.
win completely. Like, so that's part of the reason why I have it drilled it in my head that conduit is not something you just go for to make up for the fact that the rest of the game that the rest is difficult. Um, but
There is something very kind of like almost I mean this in the positive way,
mhm,
tragic about this game, where
yes.
you're a player who doesn't like lean into conduits, which is a totally sensible multi strategy,
Mhm.
but like the life of the conduits was just thrust upon you this game.
Yes, and it
Like
just don't
quick
take it.
one. Yeah, quick one, you got it, and now you've just sort of let it tick up over and over.
And yeah, I should have really just gone, okay, I guess conduit is what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
Like I think there was a lack of flexibility, and especially there's no Malvarez in this deck, so
yeah.
there's no risk of conduit going there, killing itself, and then you're back to square one. You can actually conduit here. You can get Audrey counters, um, and yeah, you can just say the remote is dead. Um, Also because like the corp is going to do things now, and if you have made them write an important piece of ice on R&D, you can tranquilize her end of turn. You have so many things you can do. A conduit here could have been, I don't think, in winning, especially because. Well, okay, question then. If you conduit, do you imp for Nikawa?
I think well, ideal if you do it last click, you imp for Nicola. But
Yes.
I think you imp either way because you want to make sure you always have some Audrey counters.
Hmm. That makes sense. I think like especially with both corporate hospitalities in the bin, imping with the potential to get an Ikawa is great because
Yeah.
there's no way Koga can get them back. So if you just conduit and you see two agendas, including Ikawa, you have basically one because there's really no way you can be kept out of archives.
Yeah. I think it's
Um,
an imp versus I think it's a Hoshiko versus Lu kind of distinction though.
mhm.
Like I'm still like it's very hard for me to like think about Hoshiko mulch because I play Lu mulch.
Yep.
Um but yeah, so you get it. So I assume so I guess now the question is you make the run,
Mhm.
uh Koga's gonna res the Mavirus or the Managarm.
Yes.
And I think you're too far gone. Like, yeah, I think you're too far gone. At this point, you're paying.
At this point, I'm paying. I have installed the imp, so I don't have to fall behind as much.
Yep.
I am trashing the Tucana because it's possible for a free scores game to happen,
I
and
think
also
that's
it's possible that I contest an agenda still here. Like this is not now that I have 400 contests, this remote is something I can absolutely contest.
yep, I agree.
Though next makes it difficult, it is possible. Look, doesn't actually have an agenda. Look, the agendas are like I think I don't think I read at all that like the agendas are in R&D.
I don't think I would have in this situation either. It reads to me like Koga's flooded an HQ.
Really,
Um
with the
yeah.
gatekeeper being the only ice in HQ for such a long time. Like
It's
I know I found the architect, so that kind of hints at oh maybe there are more, but still like you wouldn't just not protect. Like there was the MIC installed in R&D when this was just a res gatekeeper.
to me it's more the vibe that I think if Koga had an agenda,
Mhm.
Koga would threaten it. Or if Koga was able to threaten it, Koga would have. But like, it
Hmm.
looks like this situation has been one where Koga really hasn't been able to protect agendas.
Hmm.
I could be
Interesting.
wrong.
Um, anyway, like in defense of like, I think the conduit is probably the right play. Like giving up on the remote and conduiting was very right. But in defense
Yeah.
of what I did, like here I am quite able to contest the remote. The problem is only next is
Yeah.
stacking me for cards a lot. And I don't
Yeah,
have any money to use Basto.
you're in a good situation right now, actually.
I don't know about good. I don't think it's as bad as I thought it could be.
Yeah. I
Um
think like
mhm.
yeah, this is a
This is a purge, yes. I think Conduit could have been game winning though. Like I think it
I
could
don't
have
think
just
I've
won there.
ever Yep. I don't think I've ever seen that purge symbol in the replay. I love it.
Oh, it has been for a long time there.
I'm sure it's always been there. I just like I've never looked at a replay in which a purge has happened because usually you virus purge.
Mhm. What did you from 0 credits and 0 contests everywhere?
Well, your opponent's at very little too.
Yes. So one thing you
Wow.
could do is you run archives for an Audrey counter, and then you can't do it. And you're
Yeah.
like, do you have anything?
With a steel skin, that seems actually like the right line.
That seems like a decent line. One thing I do first, for sure, is liberates.
Yep, I like that. I like that a
We
lot.
are shuffling all the symbol chips. I think this is great. Like, we still have a third liberates to find in the deck, so we're not. But also, like, it doesn't feel like we're necessarily going to, um, you know, you're going to need to liberates much more now because game can't go on for that much longer. And we have a tranquilizer in hand that we still want to use that way.
Yep.
So
Trank, you really do have good game on this remote.
yes, like dressing the brand would be amazing. And here I draw
Yeah.
into a Stiltskin, which I guess here I just bust the Audrey. I find a fermenter.
Yep.
So there
Super
is
sensible.
I can't do it here. Or
Wild.
yeah, this is wrong, but I think it was based on previous reads that were wrong.
It's risky, but it makes sense.
Well, there's
One
also
draft.
I think it has to be reminded there are only 2 drafters in
Yeah.
Koga's
And one
list.
drafter's out. This is super sensible.
Um, I break one sub and tributary. I let the extra strain fire because it doesn't matter. Normally this
Yeah.
will work. Like
No, I think this is super sensible. Like, it's a big game.
mhm.
Like, 2 drafters in the deck. Like, the purge, I think, has now put you very behind.
Yes.
Like, I see no reason not
I think
to.
in many situations, I don't know. There's always the possibility of running archives for an Audrey counter and then running conduit.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
it works
that
just as well.
definitely has a better result here.
Mhm. But I don't get to install the fermenter in that case.
Yeah. But also, yeah, the fermenter is important. Getting the value Hoshiko is pretty good here.
Mhm. Yeah.
I, I think you went for it. It didn't pay off.
I think I didn't realize that my position was actually quite decent here. Like it really wasn't that bad. I thought I had to go for something more aggressive than I actually had to. So I actually went for
Out of
this.
fairness, your position, I think, after the purge was pretty rough.
Mhm.
Like, yes, you can contest the remotes, but importantly, like Koga's gonna next like any important threats, and you have no game against the next threat right now.
Mm.
So like I think you were hovering on the edge, and this seems like a sensible way that you could have recovered
Mhm.
without much of a tempo loss. I assume you do the imp, yep. And then click fermenter.
Yes.
Yeah.
We see the
So
card Rashida, I imagine. It's interesting that Ikawa is the only thing that Conduit did to turns ago will have done.
Yep.
Like the agendas
Unfortunately,
are
that
really all far back. That's
there anything in archives? I assume not. I don't think
I
Koga.
don't think there is. I
I don't
saw
think Koga does that when
no.
all recursion is in archives.
Yeah, there is a BC which is very important for Bran.
Yep.
Um, but no agendas. The agendas are just that's what 8 agendas. 4 are in 9 cards of RNG.
Yep.
Really a weird
And
distribution.
I assume this turn is now threaten the win. Click for credits.
Mhm.
Greece. Actually, no, just Greece. You don't need the tranquility bucks. Greece. Yeah. The Ikawa.
Oh, right. I
And
wondered about the tranquility. I now realized there was no money for tranquility. I lose
yeah.
my tattoo, my boitata. There's hedge fund. There's next activation command.
Yep.
So there's
And
the
yeah.
very obvious thing that's being threatened here.
What?
How like the threat here is very obvious. How do you? This was a very long time to think. What would you do? Like this is by the way, this is what I talked about when I said that
Yes.
a lot of very important things come to very marginal value.
Yep.
I am
Uh,
very
I
very
believe.
close to tranquilizing for in a way that's very disruptive, but I'm not
Yeah, I mean,
there.
if you had Trank, this turn becomes very different. Though importantly, Koga is very smartly defended against Trank.
Yes, he has
Like,
exactly the right amount of money. Yes.
yeah, actually, this was a really excellent play from Koga.
He I think he played it amazingly well.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have the best of luck, and I think maybe the matchup was advantaged for me overall, and he really leveraged everything he could. I think he still has a couple like some excellent moves going forward that
Yeah.
you'll be very
Like,
happy to
these
see.
games have been like the reason I'm so excited to like write these up is these games are like so well played by our like opponents. Like
Yes,
what a it really is a brilliant series.
yes, I agree.
Great. I think there's a world in which you get in. Let me see. You
I
could,
counted for a long time.
if you want to get in,
Mhm.
you click 1 pop fermenter, you're at 6.
Okay.
Click 2 install hush on the tributary, you're
Ooh.
at 5.
Mhm.
Run server 1, you owe 3 cards and 5 credits, and you're in. And then
Sorry,
you
what do you need?
what? You
Repeat.
need oh, because of the install. Ugh. 1, 2.
How would you get in? Sorry, I'm lost.
Yeah, you're right, because you can't break the Bran, and then the Bran is gonna get
You
a.
cannot click the brand.
Yeah, you can't click the Bran, so you
I
need to find a way
I
one
fought for
more,
like 10 minutes here. I
as you
thought of
should.
lines where I simul shipped another Audrey back in. I didn't really find anything that could get me into the remote. I had the cards, but just the virus counters are not there.
Yep, that's the issue. Alternative economies, like
I am now looking at this, and it's not impossible to try and win on RN, like on Conduit this turn. It requires extreme luck, which I don't think I could have predicted was something I could have. Now, by knowing how all the agendas are in R&D, it is a genuine possibility. Like pop fermenter, run archives. Potentially the tributary gets moved. That's fine. Put counter on Audrey, click conduit.
what's in archives?
Um, it is border control, free upgrades. Two border controls, free upgrades.
So this is one of those lines that like I would never get in the moment, and I only am able to make because I know like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a world in which no, because no, that doesn't work.
Okay.
Yeah, if there is, I think it is dependent on it not being an Ikawa,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think you want to make a strategy that keeps you in the game if that isn't an Ikawa and loses it if it is. Because if it isn't an Ikawa, you can do a lot of other things.
Sorry, are you saying you think I should?
I think you have to just assume that isn't an Ikawa.
Okay. I think that the one strategy that I end up going for, which is I have to hope, like many cards have been drawn, it is not at all obvious to me that there are no agendas in HQ. So it
Yep,
is possible.
super sensible, and you could hit a seamless and keep them from scoring Ikawa.
Minanomi is suggesting Impin Deikawa, which is not something you can do with Pinhole though. Because Pinhole says you cannot trash cards you're accessing, so that applies to Imp as well. So the thing I'm thinking
the
is
issue with the Ikawa, and the issue with imping Ikawa is to get into the server, you need to be using your Knob Kuri counter ahead of time on the Audrey.
Yeah. So like we have an imp in hand, we have a simul chip in hand, so we have the resources. Like, we are just barely missing the resources to get the imp online and do things. But what I end up doing, like my reasoning ends up being Gatekeeper is one of the very few dead pieces of ice on the board. So HQ is actually one server I can pressure. There could be agendas in hand, but also I can imp the seamlesses. It's not obvious to me whether the Corp has 2 or 3 seamlesses in hand. It is very reasonable for them to have 3.
Yep.
But also it could be 2.
But
So just hitting one seamless, like if I hit a seamless and steal an agenda, then it's very reasonable to win next turn. Also, like, it is not known that the Corp has both Nexus. So if I can manage to threaten the seamlesses, then I can actually just contest the remote next turn. Like the remote is dead if next activation command fizzles because there's no seamlesses.
So given that, I think the line is Fermenter, Hush the Tributary, run HQ, run HQ. But
But then you can only imp one card.
Oh, you wanted to be able to install the imp in. Yeah, that's sensible too.
I have a different line, yes.
Yeah, I like your one. If it's what I think it is.
Will take a long time. Yeah, this was 10 to 15 minutes. The pop fermenter, manage queue. Interestingly, Koga does not move the tributary.
Yeah. And this is around the point where I have now woken up.
Okay.
I remember this turn.
So I think I had a very weird and bad line of thinking here. I was like, oh, Koga has not moved the tributary. That looks like a mistake. And like maybe even knowing what Koga knows, that still is a mistake. But like, I should have taken that seriously as a tell that R&D is full of agendas. For some reason, I was like, oh well, I guess sometimes someone doesn't consider everything. But yeah, this should have told me R&D is full of agendas. I don't know if I could have done anything with that information, but I remember I didn't do what I should have done with it. Anyway, here.
Yeah, I don't think it's what I would have done with the tributary because like there is a world you hit 2 seamlesses, but like I see what Koga's thinking.
I am guessing if tributary is moved, I can maybe bottle the tributary hit con, which I don't know what exactly I would do.
Yeah, and of course Koga has had these 15 minutes to think of all the possible ways you can like ruin their intricately crafted plan.
I guess maybe their reasoning is just I want to represent R&D being very strong because conduit is
Yep.
the way I lose, and maybe it's not about what I was actually there, but what about uh what he wants me to think. I'm not sure. So
I think
here I
it's
am discarding Tranquilizer, discarding the Siskin,
Mhm.
and I am breaking Keeper with a credit. That's fine. I will imp a seamless launch.
That feels good.
Yep, and now I know there's a very decent chance that Ikawa isn't scored next turn. Mind you,
Hmm.
I also don't know this is an Ikawa for sure.
Yep.
Um, so I'm like, well, I guess I could win from here. It looks rough, but I see ways that I could win.
Yep.
Um, but I think like whatever happens, my best chance at this point probably involves me stealing an agenda from HQ right now because it's the only
Yep.
server I can get in, and I have to get whatever access I can get.
Super
So
sensible. I think in this situation you made an incredibly good line.
mhm. I think this is the only line that really makes sense.
Why not single chip instead of you do not have an imp in heap?
I do have an imprint. Well, I could odd rate. I will be staying. This list only runs 2 imps. It's not loop. Um,
I think I'd rather the simul chip, but
I don't think I have something to. Oh, I popped the fermenter. Yeah. It was better to take the credit by using the symbol chip. Oh, but then I lose one more card from hand. That one
true.
was better because like I actually want cards in hand for the next turn possibly.
If I remember right, you hit the seamless here, right?
Yes, which like
Oh,
I don't know whether that
so
is the
good.
thing that saved me or not. It ends up being so.
We are so good.
It's okay. Could get things for actually not a very long amount of time here.
Well, I
And
think this is like a pretty trivial move.
uh maybe. Um maybe being familiar with the deck it is, but like I was really taken aback by it. It's seamless credit, next activation command.
Yeah, I like that
Um
one.
yeah, I think some people would have advanced and kept the seamless, which is very obviously bad. But it's a very easy mistake to make. Koga recognizes that it's important to front load the seamless. Um,
It's the kind of thing, it's again the kind of move you make
mhm.
because you have unlimited time control.
Yeah, this is
Like,
again a situation where if I had a tranquilizer in my bin and a symbol chip on the board, everything will
yep.
change enormously. Like
Though
completely.
again, Koga has, I think, very much kept his credit pool at exactly enough that even if you do that, it's a hiccup, not a you've now won the game.
Yeah, but then like R&D is weak.
Yeah.
Like that's what matters, I think. It's that if I can force him to res the brand, it's not as bad as it could have been otherwise, but like R&D is weak. And I am that close to doing that. Like it's just one credit, one symbol chip install away. Um and like like a conduit dig can win. Two conduit digs are quite likely to win the game here, I think. Except that I am not within Steel Nikawa range. But like
Yeah.
we are really quite close.
Yeah.
But that's not how things go. I don't remember what they do. I don't think there were good lines from here that I could see despite thinking about it really hard. What would you do?
Yeah. I think you yeah, I see very little here. I think you might just need to conduit R&D, click
Mm-hmm.
1, let after fire, so you can pay 2 and get 3 accesses.
Pay 2 clicks.
Yeah.
I can get 3 accesses. And I win if it's exactly 3 2 pointers.
Well, in that case, no, because with well, in this case, yes, but if that wasn't an MIC, you win if you get the Ikawa.
I don't have the credits to steal it.
Oh yeah, you're right. Gotta be Lou, I guess.
Yeah. I am like again, I am one credit off. There are so many cool
Ah,
things I can do if I am just a little.
yeah, this really is like the epitome of like a what is the QTM line? A click late and a credit sorry.
Yes.
Okay, you're a click late and a credit sorry.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think you have anything. I think you just got to run HQ
I don't know
or
why.
archives.
I really I am looking at like the best line has to be counted line because the best line has to involve simul shipping or installing a bot somehow and getting into R&D and seeing free cards or like whatever I do, it has to involve with me seeing free cards of R&D and them being the exact free offered offices, which one of them has been drawn, but I don't know that.
Yeah,
Um,
that feels awful though, but yeah, I think that is the line.
like it has to be. It just I think I spent the whole game with like not thinking about oh R&D has to be full of agendas. I guess maybe not moving tributary had like should have made me think of that. Um, yeah, everything is so sad here. Uh,
Yeah,
that
even
probably was the right line. I don't think I took that. What I do here is run archives. Tributary can move, but it doesn't. Oh, I guess there was some hope of there being an agenda in archives, which
or that. Yeah,
why would there be? But yeah, here um, I bumped my Audrey, which means I can't win anymore.
yeah. I mean, if you want to angle shoot really hard, you could pinhole threading imp the Ikawa and hope Koga doesn't call a judge.
Maybe I don't
But
think that works in Giant though. I think
that's bad
the judge
sportsmanship.
is here at the table.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like the worst possible sportsmanship. I actually think JNet doesn't even let you. I think it's good
no,
that
no, it
this
doesn't.
way.
It doesn't let you.
Oh, nice.
And here I let the tributary. Oh, I let the tributary fully fire because I think maybe. Why do I do that? There was actually no
Of
good
course,
reason.
no, I think it's reasonable. You're gonna let the drafter fire.
Yeah, but why let the no? I mean, why let the plus strength fire? Because I don't know what the middle ice is.
Well, you can't break it
Why not?
because you want to keep the Audrey credits or counters.
I'm not sure that's the case. I don't know. Anyway, I can't get in here,
Yeah,
and obviously I lose. Um,
really interesting game. I'm really glad I got to see it in full now.
mhm.
Like, absolutely, so many cool decision points.
Yes, and I think I misevaluated some things in ways that I'm not really tested to this extent normally during games. Even most tournament games,
Yeah,
it, like I have won many games with this deck or decks similar to this, and uh, Mulch tends to really run over the court when it does win, and
yeah. I
you
mean,
don't come to appreciate such fine lines between a decision that ends up with you having a couple credits more usually.
yeah.
And this is one of those games where like one click of a difference or like two free credits of a difference really make really change everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is why like so many of these games just come down to like keeping calm and you know
Mm-hmm.
just taking care. Like
Yes,
I feel this was like I think the epitome of a game that like I would imagine from your perspective would have taken so many like so much mental energy.
it did. And then I came to I guess there was also an element of just it kind of was the warm up game compared to the other one. I think maybe if I had played my games in reverse order, maybe this would have been better
Mm,
because then like the other matchup was much easier and I needed to like for my brain to actually get in a trainer mode. Um,
yeah.
ultimately, I have so many like unresolved questions about decisions I could have made in this game where I don't really know how things could have gone. I guess that the keep was kind of doubtful in hindsight.
Hmm.
And I just should have balled into actual money. But it's still difficult to say,
Yeah,
you know?
I think the keep was right.
Mhm.
Like, I think you had a rough draw. I think the deck didn't give you what you needed when you needed it.
Yes, like I had the Lago.
And
When you
that
have the
it-
Lago, one the payoff should be that then you get the cards, you know? And I didn't get the cards from Lago.
yeah,
All of my
I mean,
moshings, like I had one moshing still in my deck, and my other moshings were both milled. Everything was just
yeah,
a little off.
yep.
But again, I
I
think the matchup is positive for me because like the lack of Mavirus is not something you can make up for with just X activation. Um, but things didn't really come out right here.
yeah, but that's how it goes. I think that was a really, really cool game to look at, though.
It was very, very good. Okay,
Okay,
I think we're going to
and
have to
we
stop the stream.
definitely do not have time
No,
for
yeah.
a 2 hour. Maybe that one will come later because I
I
do
mean,
think that game was fascinating
that
in
game
all
is
the right
amazing.
ways.
I really want to see what Tempest actually had. I think you played it very well. I think you made some decision where I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And I expect to have the same, you know, the same moments of, you know, illumination and enlightenment
I make
that I had with the R Plus game.
I have went through this one already, and we'll go through it at some point because it's really interesting.
Okay.
I make one decision that game which is 100% wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but on the most parts, I very much played this game with a mindset. I know how I'm going to win this matchup, and I'm gonna stick by it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I did it for better and for worse. Like the big thing I think looking at that game back and also looking at the stream that really will frustrate people is I very much made a decision before that game that I do not run archives unless I have the agenda points to avoid worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It just I just never thought it was worth it.
I
Um,
I am very curious to see like the decision explained in context. I don't want to get too many spoilers before we get there.
yeah, we'll go for it anyway. But I'm gonna call it here.
Yeah,
Uh,
we
I'm really
went about
excited.
the hour more than we intended to.
Yes, fortunately, it's a holiday for me.
Mhm.
Uh, so I have enjoyed this moment, and I'm now gonna say hi to some familiars.
Have a good holiday. Thanks for everyone who contributed their ideas in chat. We weren't able to always respond to everything because, as I hope you saw, we had so much back and forth going on that it's difficult to add more, you know, more points of view to the conversation. But I hope it was nice to see and you had a good time. We are probably going to do one more of these videos at least sometime soon.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe if yeah.
okay, we will coordinate
I was
somehow.
about to say, and maybe we'll add another one, but there's no way that we're going to be able to go through that PE game in less than like 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah. 2 hours.
So
I think 2 hours makes sense. Okay,
we'll make that our goal. Anyhow, I'm off.
goodbye.